The guessing game in agribusiness at present is, why was John Grabby sacked as the boss of Cubby Station? Grabby's been dumped in the middle of taking off a cotton crop worth $150 million or more. Everybody's keeping stum at present, but it's rumoured the long-standing manager was dumped simply because he gave an interview to a commercial television station. More on Cubby later on. No interview with Mr Grabby, but some amazing vision of one of the richest crops ever harvested in Australia. Moving on, and if you sniff diesel in the air, relax. It's just Australia's farmers revving up their tractors for the planting season. It looks like a good season ahead with plenty of subsoil moisture, but a real dampener is the rising price of diesel. Late last year, the average price in regional Australia was about $1.30 a litre. Here's the graph of the diesel price lift in the past 12 weeks. It's now about $1.55 a litre. That's an average, and we know it's much dearer in many places. Now, that increase in about 3 months is close to 20%. The other issue, of course, is the rising dollar. More on that in future programs. Now, let's start the price check with livestock, where the National Livestock Reporting Service says numbers are up, especially for big steers. Restockers and lot feeders again dominated the market, but for the first time in several weeks, they were looking at somewhat reduced quality. So most categories fell. Exporters are battling our big dollar but seem to be hanging in for the moment. It's worth a reminder that Australia exports more than 60% of the beef we produce, making that dollar level very important. And after the markets closed Thursday, the Eastern Young Cattle Indicator had eased to $4.10, and another reminder, that's 17% up on the same time last year. Now, the live export trade has plenty of permits at present, but the problem is mustering and loading. There's just too much rain. Steers and heifers are steady on last week, and producers would be pleased to hear that the trade to Turkey has reopened. Back to the sale yards, and sheep numbers were up last week while lamb numbers decreased. With a good season, producers are obviously holding on to lambs much longer. That lamb price is up $1.35 since April of last year, and mutton has lifted 98 cents in the same period. Pig prices are steady. As our dollar rockets, the big supermarkets are lifting their imports of Danish and Canadian pork, now getting close to 1,000 tonnes a week. Most of that pork, of course, is reprocessed and sold as made in Australia. Meanwhile, butchers report a big lift in fresh pork sales as beef and lamb prices rise. In fact, many butchers say they'd rather sell pork ahead of lamb because they can put a regular margin on it. To grains now, and overseas markets were bearish as traders reacted to a combination of bad news, including a warning that the explosion in food commodity prices is unsustainable. Experts pointed to the price of corn up 100% in a year and soybeans up 37%. So Chicago retreated, but it seemed without a huge amount of conviction. Wheat and soybean losses were less than 30 cents and corn lost very little. It's worth noting that further out contracts are much lower across the board. And in New York, cotton is losing ground, which is no surprise, and sugar has slipped again as traders note a massive harvest in Thailand and a big crush in Brazil. So cotton for May delivery is back below $2 and looks set to slump even further, and the bears have pushed sugar to its lowest close since last December. Finally to wool, where another week of poorer quality wool has pushed the indicator down. As mentioned last week, there's a big quantity of cotton, discoloured and tender wool being offered. So the Eastern Market Indicator fell just over 1.5% to close at 1,352 cents a kilo. Now, as mentioned earlier, John Grabby has been sacked as boss of Cubby Station. Nobody's giving any official reason why Grabby's been flicked, but it has to be said it's a peculiar thing to happen in the middle of Cubby's biggest ever cotton harvest. And it's not just Cubby with a big crop. The ABC's Paul Lockyer has been busy in cotton country in southwestern Queensland. I recorded this interview just prior to John Grabby being dumped.
I don't think anybody in this district has seen anything quite like this. I'm in this magnificent field of cotton just outside St George, and all around me the pickers are going hell for leather 24 hours a day to get this amazing cotton crop in. And as we know, it's a record harvest in Australia, more than 4 million bales coming in, and as we also know, the world price is rocketing up to $1,000 a bale just a couple of weeks ago, and who knows where it will end, Kerry.
Well, in fact, that price has come back a little in recent days, but given what they've been through out there over recent seasons, for the farmers, the season and the prices, it must be a real boost.
Oh, look, I've never seen optimism like this, and we've been coming out here through all those years of drought, and then the devastating floods of last year, Kerry, and I've never seen optimism like this, and it's reflected in the shops. You can see it in the cafes in town, but you can see it on the farms. I mean, people who were so downcast during those 10 years of drought now really believe there's a huge future out here. And as one cotton grower here, Hamish McIntyre, told me, the stars are aligned perfectly for cotton in Australia.
We hope that we might be able to see the prices, at $500 plus more regularly now. Even it'd be wonderful if we could, get $600 a bale for our cotton. We can forward sell that for next year's crop now. We've got water for it. So, again, that's all very positive for the commodity Australia-wide, that the prices are great, and generally there's water in all the catchments.
I imagine people forward sold their crop here, probably around $500, $550, only to see it go recently to $1,000 a bale.
That's right. We've all been involved in that. I mean, I think in our own family farms, we're probably averaging about $560. We'll still have a balance of crop to sell, which is great. So hopefully we'll see some of that good money out of that. But I mean, historically, whenever you see $500, you sell something. $550, we sold more, and then it kept on going. But it's a good problem to have, isn't it? Yeah.
But is it frustrating when you've sold at that level and see it double?
It is a bit, but I mean, you don't look back. I mean, plenty of times I've been trying to sell cotton this time of year, balance the crop, and it's worth $350, and so you think, oh, wait, it'll go up, and then in 3 months' time it's $320, so you just cut and run. But so no, it's fantastic, Paul. Yeah, we're very lucky. Yeah.
So Hamish McIntyre is doing. What about the star attraction out there, Cubby Station? How's that faring in crop terms?
Well, how ironic is this, Kerry, that this great dream of Des Stevenson and John Grabby down there on the floodplain south of St George, that massive cotton place, has finally, the dream has been realised. 21,000 hectares of cotton are being picked on that place, levee bank to levee bank full. And all the dams, of course, are full, and a time, of course, when they're in deep financial trouble. And as we know, they've been in voluntary administration since 2009, and there's a new sales campaign on now through Goldman & Sachs to try to sell this place. It's ironic, but it's huge for the whole district, because Cubby is by far the biggest cotton producer in this part of the world. It makes a big contribution to the entire Australian crop. What the future is, nobody knows. Maybe it will sell. Certainly for the community here, they're hoping that the management team remains in place. And there's no bigger defender of Cubby than the Mayor of St George, Donna Stewart.
We were hoping as a community that their financiers, the National and National Bank and Suncorp, might see fit to put it back into the hands of them as managers. It's I know that the general talk in the community is that's probably about $80 or $90 million net profit to be made down there on Cubby this year. And so as a community, we know what the previous management did for our communities. They were wonderful sponsors and supported us wholeheartedly. That's what we would like to see. So we're hoping that that happens.
That's St George Mayor Donna Stewart. She was speaking with Paul Lockyer. And that concludes the Weekly Check on Prices.